Lifestyle Live. Come and see, you'll agree. There's a positive energy. Lifestyle Live.
From the All Indiana Podcast Network, this is the Lifestyle Live Podcast.
Faces you know and a team you can trust. Stories that form your heart. Lifestyle Live. Lifestyle Live.
His name, Mr. Peace. His mission, to inspire young people everywhere. I'm Amber Hankins, and on this Lifestyle Live podcast episode, Kevin Szawala, a youth speaker from Metro Detroit, specializes in bullying prevention, diversity, student mental health, and suicide. He's also spoken at several Indianapolis-area private schools. Today, he speaks to me about the depth of his words, their meaning, and how one student told him, "If you weren't here today, Mr. Peace, I wouldn't be here tomorrow." This is the Lifestyle Live podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network.
Lifestyle Live. Lifestyle Live.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my site softer?
Can I make my site firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. It's the Sleep Number biggest sale of the year. All beds on sale up to 50% off the limited edition smart bed. Plus free premium delivery with any smart bed and adjustable base. Ends Labor Day. All Sleep Number smart beds offer temperature solutions for your best sleep. Check it out at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com today.
Well, his name is Mr. Peace, and he comes with a message that so many students of all ages can relate to, and dare I say, adults as well,
yes,
because
definitely.
your message is of kindness, is of peace, and this is something that I don't care whatever age you are, we can all benefit from, we can all learn from as well.
Definitely. You know, one of the biggest things I tell our youth and even adults, like you said, is that all of us are true miracles.
Yeah.
Like the shirt that I wear for most of my assemblies, I talk about how we all have with the lines on our hand, each of us, right? On our palms, we have at least one on each hand, but that letter M. There's one of mine here.
Yeah.
And that M I say stands for miracle, right? Upside down, W for worthy. But so many students that I talk to, people in general, they have never been told that, or they've forgotten that.
Yeah.
And so if we can remind them, of their worth, of their value, that they never have to be alone or go it alone, that there's always someone out there who cares for them. That's the biggest thing I'm trying to get home to.
Makes all the difference. So let's back it up just a little bit. Yeah. Sort of a motivational speaker. You are traveling to different schools, K through 12, right, across the country.
Correct. Public and private. And since 2006 now, about 15 years, I've spoken now in 20 states to over 1,000 schools to over 1 million students. And I go where I'm called. I just want to serve. I want to give back that love that so many of them really haven't had that. And so if I can just be that light to their heart, that's what I'm here for.
Let's talk stories. I kind of want to dive in a little deep because I say that you come with a message because it really is something that's so important. I think especially in today's day and age with COVID, with the mental health crisis sort of on the rise. I mean, kids need this message more than ever, especially if they don't always have it coming from home.
Well, sure. And, we always hear the phrase, kids are cruel, people are cruel, but I say, no, they're not, that we're all just mirrors. Right?
Yeah.
And so many times what we choose to reflect is not what we're taught in schools, which is hopefully more about kindness, but it's what we learn from our home environment. And unfortunately, many times we choose to reflect the hatred that we see.
Yeah.
And so, yes, with COVID, with the pandemic, the virtual learning, the stress levels are through the roof for so many families. And a lot of times, unfortunately, parents maybe don't have the same tools as even their children do. They're kind of taking that anger out on them.
Yeah.
And now these students are just basically mimicking what they see.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make it right, but if you come from that space of understanding, then you know how to maybe approach it and kind of hit them at the heart level.
I want to get to the personal stories as well, because even though that's tough to hear, I think it's really important because, you literally have students coming up to you in tears and opening their hearts and sharing their stories and letting you know just how much they needed to hear from you.
I've had students come up to me, I have to say tears are the sweat of our strength. They started feeling and feeling again, so I'm really proud of them when they start to feel. But students that say, Mr. Peace, this you forgot that the M also stands for mistake. And someone in their life who they loved told them that lie, and they believed it. I've had students that have written that on a piece of paper and showed it to me and say, I look at this once a day to remind myself who I am. And these are second graders. Right?
What?
You know, I had a student named Kaiden in 6th grade come up to me after a talk down in Texas with a walking stick. She was blind, legally blind, and said, Mr. Peace, can you trace my M? Because she's never, you know, she can't really see her hands. She's that blind. And so I did with my finger on her palm, and she looked at me and said, Mr. Peace, that's the first time in my life that I've ever felt like a miracle.
Oh my gosh.
So, you know, I get those on a daily basis, just students that, you know, for whatever reason have just really have this, you know, this pain in their heart.
Yeah.
But like I always talk about too, you know, the big reason that people do bully themselves or others is that hurt people.
Yeah.
But if we can let that love and kindness come in to help heal our heart, we can turn that hurt people who hurt people into healed people who heal people.
And my hope through all of that too is you say hurt people.
Yeah.
And if you're on the receiving end of that, a lot of times that's hard to understand, because all you feel is the brunt of their words, of their actions. But I'm hoping those hurt people listening to you perhaps come out changed.
Yeah, you know, it's inspiring to me to see that sometimes I only have 35 or 40 minutes with a school, right?
Yeah.
With the students in an audience. But yet, within that 40-minute time frame, you know, I asked the question, how many of you, basically, if something I shared today touched your heart, can you raise your hand?
Yeah.
And then every hand goes up. And so it's like, if something did touch their heart, they have a big heart.
Yeah.
And now it's up to them to go and decide or choose how they want to treat others going forward, right? That they have this choice, even at a young age, to know this life lesson is just huge to understand that.
You said something when we were chatting on Lifestyle Live on the actual show that really stuck with me, that one of the students told you, Mr. Peace, if you weren't here today, I wouldn't be here tomorrow.
Yeah. You know, there's times I get self-doubts. I left corporate America years ago to pursue this. I left the comfortable job in the auto industry. And there's times that, you know, I've struggled, you know, financially, spiritually, just a lot of things, you know, self-doubt, myself, I get that too.
Right, we're human.
Right. But every now and then, you know, I just get like a message on Instagram or a comment on YouTube, and it's a student that I spoke to 4 years ago. And they reach out and say, you know, what you said that day saved my life.
Yeah.
You know, that you being here, I finally have a renewed passion for life. And, you know, thank you for the work that you do. I'm an Oakland County resident of Michigan, and we had the Oxford shooting. And some students that I spoke to back when they were in middle school that were now at the high school messaged me that same afternoon and said, I made it out alive, Mr. Peace, and your words are still ringing true today.
I think what's tough is, as people, you know, whatever type of family you're in, I think we automatically assume that so many people have the same type of family structure, if our structure is good, have the same type of support system. We are all kind of created equal that way, and the truth is, we're not. I mean, we all come from different backgrounds, and you also mentioned something that saying that people just need to feel as if they're not alone, that somebody cares, that somebody is listening, and I think that truly can make all the difference.
Sure.
And somebody's outlook on themselves.
Well, you and I just talked about that in the hallway earlier, that basically, you know, family isn't just blood, right?
Yeah.
That you want to have them in your corner, the people that you love the most and care for the most, but a best friend, you know, that sees you for who you are, just having one is worth everything.
Yeah.
And for these students to know that not every opinion matters, right? that basically what matters is what they believe is huge, because they're getting their self-worth from their cell phone, you know, from the number of friends and followers. And it's crazy to me that, you know, we have so many friends and followers on social media, yet we still feel so alone.
So alone. Isn't that crazy?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we dive into that very quickly, because I can't imagine, Mr. Peace, being even a middle schooler. I was about to say high school, but I mean, it's that tween teenage in this type of societal influence to where you do feel measured by the number of likes, the number of followers, but yet you're at home feeling so alone.
Right. And, you know, I do a parent program also on cyberbullying and social media in addition to my school assemblies.
Yeah.
And, you know, I tell them that sometimes I'm speaking in front of 1,000 students at once, like in a gym or auditorium, and I ask the question, how many of you have ever felt alone? And every hand goes up.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at a room of 1,000 people, and I'm like, there's 1,000 people in this room. How can you feel alone?
Yeah.
But I get it because, unfortunately, we compare ourselves to so many people around us, and this competitiveness is what just kind of drains the life out of us.
Yeah.
I saw a quote on the internet the other day. It said, what if Instagram closed at 6 p.m.? What if Facebook shut down at 6 p.m.? What if, TikTok, all these other ones just stopped, like they closed like they do for any business?
Yeah.
And we could actually take time to want to connect, to want to reach out. There was a study just done by the Common Sense Education Organization, and they basically interviewed and surveyed these teens and tweens, and they said that as a result of this pandemic, they are craving in-person connections more than ever.
Yeah.
Right? And they're grateful for the family time that a lot of them have had more of that being home with them. But to understand that we need those heart-to-heart relationships is huge.
And sometimes I don't think, even as adults, that we do understand how important that is. And that's why I say, at the beginning of this interview, that message, it resonates with us. I mean, I'm 39, I'm almost 40 years old, and I still feel at times to where I need advice from somebody like you, because I've gone through things myself to where, how can people act like that? Like, do they have any idea how hurtful that is? How hurt I feel?
Right.
I'm still dealing with that as an adult. It's almost like this life management, because you can't change other people, but I guess it's how you react to it.
I have a friend, she's 102, and I was at her birthday party and eating some great cake, but she basically said her most painful memory was back in 4th grade, over 90 years ago.
Wow.
Remembers like it happened yesterday. She was in the front of the class giving a presentation, and a boy came up from behind her, put her down because of her weight, right? Because she was heavier than her classmates.
Yeah.
And that one defining moment stuck with her until about age 40, when she finally forgave him in her heart to pursue becoming a youth worker to help other students who felt like she felt. She became healed to heal other people. But there's teachers, counselors, they'll interrupt my assembly sometimes, and they'll say, I'm sorry, but I have to share something with everybody here.
Yeah.
My most painful memory was back in 2nd grade when the teacher brought me in front of class and said, we have to teach Elizabeth to do math because she's too dumb to do it herself.
Oh my gosh.
I have
and that's an
teachers-
educator.
Well, right. And
that's a teacher.
A lot of them, fortunately, now that's become their fuel to their fire to become that 2nd grade teacher themselves, so it doesn't happen to their students.
That is such a great takeaway.
Yeah.
Because I've worked, you've had teachers, but you grow up and then you have bosses.
Oh, yeah.
You have managers, you have coworkers, and people that you think are supposed to lead and set an example, and they don't. But I think the takeaway is to learn what they didn't do correctly, or what you feel in your heart they didn't do correctly, and make sure that you give to others what you didn't feel yourself.
Yeah, and I think the biggest takeaway too is that these teachers, these educators, they understand, great ones, that they have to reach these students at the heart level.
Yeah.
Because they're coming to school with their balloons like ready to explode, so many of them.
Yeah.
They got all this weight and pressure from home and what's going on with the pandemic, like you mentioned earlier. And if we don't hit them right there and actually show them we care, then they aren't going to care what we have to say.
Yeah.
Right? I've had principals come up to me and they say, students crying because there's drug abuse at home, and she's witnessing all this terrible, all these terrible things, and some of them will come up to me and say, well, now their whole day's shot because they're crying, and I'm like, and they're like, how are they going to learn math now? And I said, do you think they were going to learn math before I came?
Yeah.
When they had all this going on inside? I said, we have to reach them there, and it's the need is greater than it ever has been.
And especially at school, because I feel like a lot of times with these kids, if they don't have that quote unquote home life that you think is normal or what they should have, school is like their safe place. It's their escape, and they need that. I think now more than ever.
Yeah, and I tell them when I speak to them at these assemblies, I don't come pretending to know what goes on behind closed doors. I don't.
Yeah.
I just come with an open heart, hoping to touch a small piece of yours, right? And if I'm able to do that, then that's the greatest gift that we can give them, is that all of a sudden they know that no matter what happens, no matter what they're going to go through, they can basically still choose kindness, still choose love, that sometimes the storms have to happen for the rainbows to appear.
Yeah.
Right?
I think it's a beautiful thing, though, with what you're doing, because for you, it might be, I had this talk on a Tuesday, and I have this talk on a Wednesday, but the impact you have on these students, literally, I feel like is something that could last a lifetime and change the entire course and trajectory of where they go in life, how they act, how they treat people, and ultimately who they become.
Well, yeah, and I've had some students, that they message me right away, like, this changed my life forever. I'm not being over dramatic, Mr. Peace, like, I'm choosing kindness from here on out.
Yeah.
And there's other students that are talking during the entire assembly, and you think they don't hear a single word.
Right.
But then 6 months later, I get an email saying, Mr. Peace, you might not remember me, but I was talking right in the front row, and of course I do remember them.
Yeah.
Because I was that class clown that did a lot of that because I felt empty and alone inside.
Well, it's that defense mechanism too, right? I don't care what he's saying, but yet you still kind of, a little bit, you have that ear.
And then eventually they say, hey, you might not think I heard a word, but I heard every word. And at that time, you talked about painful memories in our life, and I hadn't really had one until last night when my best friend overdosed. And all of a sudden, now they're scrambling. Now they're looking for answers, for hope. And so I always say that, at a minimum, the seed has been planted, right?
Yeah.
Whether or not they're ready to receive it at that moment, that's up to them and up to their life and their experiences. But if we can at least just go with that mentality, like I do at every talk, like, I'm going to give it my all, because this might be the last time I ever receive these people in my life.
Right.
And this might be the last day I ever get to speak. So we don't know, there's no guarantees. And so if I can have that approach every time I speak, then I'm giving all that I have. Sometimes the only thing people remember you for is your heart.
Yeah. And that goes back to that saying that they don't always remember what you said, but people remember how you made them feel.
Oh, sure.
And I feel like that is everything. Again, at any age, I feel like we could all benefit from that. But it also does remind me that to not judge people just on what you see, because we are all walking our own paths, but also carrying a burden that perhaps not everybody knows about, because we project this outside appearance of everything is great and wonderful and I've got this and that. And then, I hear of like the former, I believe it was Miss Universe or Miss USA, who just committed suicide. And that, to me, is so heartbreaking, because I'm very familiar with that world, and I look at her and I'm like, wait, what? You're beautiful. You had everything going for you. I mean, you're a host with Extra TV. Obviously, you're in the pageant system. You're beautiful. You're successful. But you don't always know what they're dealing with underneath all of that.
And I always say, too, suicide's not about wanting to die. It's about not wanting to deal with that pain anymore.
Yeah.
Right?
That escape, I guess.
Right. And it's just that self-hatred and non-love has gotten so high that, unfortunately, when it finally spills over, we're maybe onto ourselves with the self-harm, or like we're seeing too often in the news, how we treat others poorly. But I guess, my whole take is that if we can take a little bit of time to kind of assess the situation and realize that it's a temporary pain, right? That it will pass. We don't go towards that permanent solution right away. But again, unfortunately, with how inundated our youth are becoming with the instant culture and the multitasking, alternating attention is just going through the roof. Right? They're just so spread so thin and 6-second videos that what we're seeing is that somebody punches them, they're going to punch right back.
Right.
Something happens to them, I might end my life.
Yeah.
And they're not taking this time for conflict resolution to breathe, to just
understand
the consequences.
Right.
And that's what we're seeing. So, how do we start to reverse some of those trends? And that's where I feel
I know we're going to wrap this up here shortly, but I want to end with, if we're not able to have you in our schools, in our classrooms, if we're not able to have you as a speaker, what advice can you give the listeners, the viewers watching and listening, something that we can take away ourselves, but also go home and give to our children?
Well, the biggest thing is time, right? That's the one commodity that we don't have enough of, and that we wish we had more of. So I always say, for parents, guardians, just to get as vulnerable as possible, right? Because again, your children, they aren't going to really again, care what you have to say until they know that you're vested in their well-being. And, if I can't come virtually, if I can't come in person, there's videos online that I have created, to try to motivate people.
Yeah, okay.
They can definitely search Mr. Peace on all the social media platforms, hopefully find some inspiration that way. But again, I think if we know as parents that we want to model this, we want to, model that change, that it starts with us setting the example.
Right.
And so many studies I've seen recently, parents are in agreement that, social media is having more of a hurtful and harmful effect than it is beneficial. But yet they're the same parents that
are sitting on their phone doing the
exactly.
Yeah, I know.
And at ages 0 to 5, that they're saying in these surveys that their child is using Snapchat or TikTok, and they're only 2 years old. And I'm like, the only way that they're using that is because you're giving them the phone.
Right.
Like
Take
as
it away.
The babysitter, and there has to be a balance with anything.
Yeah.
Like we've seen now too, social media gives off the same dopamine effects as alcohol, gambling, drugs.
Yeah.
It's addictive and it's harmful, and there's age restrictions on that, on all those things, but not on social media.
Yeah.
Not on having a phone. And so where do we kind of start to have a healthy medium?
It starts with the parent, starts at home. I always say, as parents, and I am not perfect by any means, but when you lead by example, that's the behavior that they learn, and that's ultimately what they go out and do, or at least that's our hope, right? I know some kids kind of do their own things, but that's our hope. Where can we learn more about you? Where can we find you to perhaps have you come into our schools?
Yeah, mrpeace.org, mrpeace.org. All my information's there. You can book an assembly, you can watch some inspirational videos, you can follow all the social media platforms. Everything's on that website. I would love to connect with whoever wants to come and bring me to share my heart with the students, because right now this message is, again, it's beyond needed.
It is.
What we're seeing with the need for bullying prevention, suicide awareness, diversity and inclusion, teen mental health. That's what I specialize in, and I would love to explore that opportunity with any school.
There are so many different ways we could go with this, and we could branch off even more into different side notes of it and talk about it. But we truly appreciate your time. I feel like I've kept you long enough, but thank you so much for sticking around. Thank you for what you're doing and for seeing the importance of how your words, your message, your one day at their school can truly change a person's life. It is everything. So thank you so much. We hope this conversation at the end of the day, you guys, if anything, it has brought you your own sense of peace.
From the All Indiana Podcast Network, this is the Lifestyle Live Podcast. Thank you for listening. Be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to this podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And connect for even more on Facebook and at lifestylelive.tv.
Faces you know and a team you can trust.